Well, welcome to this free training on how to overcome anxiety and panic attacks. We are so glad that you decided to click that link and come to our video. It's really a gift for us to be able to share what we've learned through our journey, the failures, the triumphs, and everything in between. What we're going to do here today is give you a distilled version of what works, give you the information that we wish we had when we were suffering from high anxiety and panic attacks. Let's start right here. This video is very, very dense, and it's going to require your full attention. And I want you to think about it like you deserve your full attention. Overcoming panic attacks and high levels of anxiety is something that is not necessarily easy. It may be simple, but it's not easy. It requires your consistency, and it requires your full attention. So please don't multitask during this video. If you're in your car, wait till you get home and can sit and fully concentrate. If you're cooking dinner, cook your dinner. After dinner, put the kids to bed and come down where you can fully concentrate with either a pen or paper, a Word document, so you can take notes and fully engage with the content of this video. I promise you it'll be worth it.
Hi, I'm Ennis, and as Jim said, we are so excited to share everything that we've learned about anxiety and panic attacks. If you're listening to this right now, just know that we have massive empathy for everything that you're going through. We've been there. Personally, I started having experiences with panic attacks around college. I started having panic attacks around test time. I was doing a lot of drinking and, to be honest, a lot of drugs. And I was really experiencing strange sensations. And I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going crazy. I thought that I was really going out of control. And for the next few years of my life, I struggled immensely with just worrying, is this next moment going to be the moment that I have a panic attack? Is this next moment going to be the one where I finally go crazy? And for a long time, I just felt ungrounded and not on even keel. I was avoiding situations in my life. I was really just filtering experiences based off of, will this moment give me a panic attack? Will this experience make me feel nervous? And so over time, I got really frustrated with that. I felt like these weird experiences of depersonalization and tingles in my body and different experiences with my heart rate and dizziness, it was really getting annoying at that point. It was really getting to the point where I was more frustrated than I was afraid. And slowly I read a few books, I went to see different mentors, I started eating differently, and I applied a lot of different principles from a lot of different sources. And there wasn't really ever one simple thing that worked for me. It was always a collection of the whole thing. And so over time, I just got better and better and better. And these days, even if I'm having a panic attack, it's just such a quick response. It's so much easier to actually deal with it. And being on the other side of that, I feel more confident, more calm than I can ever remember feeling. And that's really, really what I want for you who's listening to this, who's still experiencing the panic attacks, the anxiety, and the uncertainty of when this will end. I hope that this video that we've made for you can really help you to overcome this once and for all.
Yeah, so my name's Jim Cipollini, by the way. Hi. And I was the kid who always had a tummy ache. I was the kid who grew up in a house where my parents were very explosive, separated when I was very young, and I was very scared of everything. My father had impulsive anger, was very moody. My mother suffered from high anxiety and depression. And I can remember just getting these stomach aches when I would be met with a challenge or uncomfortable at school. And so over time, in my preteen years and my teenage years, I became a role filler and a people pleaser. I became a validation seeker. I didn't care. I didn't even know who I was. I was just somebody who wanted other people to like me. And this really lasted me into my 20s through my early music career, my engagement with friends. Now, all through my teenage years, I was in and out of counselors for anxiety and anger. And then in my 20s, I took a little bit of a break and I started drinking more and partying a little more, using drugs and food to mask how I felt. And then in about my mid to late 20s, I started getting serious about what am I doing with myself? I didn't feel good. I didn't even know who I was. I was acting like an asshole a lot. And some trusted friends kind of would sit me aside and say, you're this really sweet, sensitive guy behind closed doors, but you feel like you have to be this person. So I started kind of sorting out what was going on. And I went to a psychiatrist. I tried all types of different medications that made me feel foggy or drowsy or just not with it. I didn't like it. I gradually started to take better care of my body physically. And then I worked with a few mentors who helped me just sort out what I was doing, what my behaviors were, what my beliefs about myself and the world were, what stuff I wanted to leave behind, what stuff I wanted to move forward with, and then just some general life skills like speaking up for myself, looking people in the eye and being able to have a confrontational conversation, living in alignment with who I wanted to be. And those were really the holistic keys, this idea of holistic therapy that I went through to integrate all these different areas of life and see how they work together. And gradually through that, my anxiety subsided. I stopped having panic attacks completely. And not only that, but I have been able to construct this life of fulfillment, of giving, of beautiful relationships, of really meaningful friendships. And it's almost like a completely different existence I'm having now, because it is a completely different existence.
So to give you an overview of what we're going to cover in this video, here's a quick table of contents. So there's going to be an introduction where we just cover some basic ideas, and then we're going to dive right into telling you how to get through a panic attack. We want to give you as much value as possible in this entire video, and so we're going to front load a lot of important things and show you exactly what to do during an actual panic attack. Then we're going to dive into some more long-term solutions. We want to have you not just getting through panic attacks, but not having them altogether. So we're going to dive into the three main causes of anxiety and panic attacks. And then at the end, we'll have a summary and some next steps for you. So again, this is something that really can impact your whole life. The things that you hear, as long as they are applied, can transform your relationship to fear. And so we're excited for you. And
so full disclosure, we are creating an 8-week course on how to overcome panic attacks and anxiety. We will mention that course throughout this video. We're not here to sell it. This video is made just to give information for those in need. If we reference the course, it's just because it's something we've been studying and putting together for a while.
Right off the bat, we want to remind you that there's a lot of people going through this. There's 6 million people suffering from panic attacks, and that's just panic attacks, not to mention generalized anxiety and social anxiety. This is a serious condition of the modern time. If you're listening to this, we understand you. The weird sensations that you're feeling, the feelings of ungroundedness, depersonalization, heart rates kicking off fears of death, dizziness, making you feel like you're going out of control. All of these odd sensations that come with panic attacks and anxiety. We've been there. And we just are here to tell you it's normal. There's not something inherently wrong with you. You're not actually dying or going crazy. You're just having a lot of the symptoms of anxiety and panic attacks. So we're going to cover how to overcome this. But in the meantime, just know you're not alone. You're not, suffering from something that can't be overcome either.
Furthermore, it's the most important that you know you're not stuck. You are never stuck where you are. But referencing that second slide that says you deserve your full attention, you do deserve your full attention. Overcoming anxiety and panic attacks is a multi-level plan and treatment. And so if you're suffering from panic attacks right now and high levels of anxiety, you really have to reprioritize where your time and where your effort is going. The collateral effect of your anxiety goes from everything from your trouble in relationships to your inability to advance at work, to your inability to connect with people, or even, go see a spider if you have a specific phobia. The ripple effect of anxiety is gigantic. And so you're not stuck, but you do need to commit to getting very serious about reprioritizing.
So, fight or flight, what we mean by that is the psychological mechanism that actually scans your environment. It's constantly aware of what's happening around you, and it's detecting potential threats. And anything that it sees as a threat is going to trigger the fight or flight response, which is basically your body going into an overdrive of alertness and basically preparing to fight or flight. So this means that your oxygen levels are going to spike, your blood is going to go to different areas of the body, either the arms or the legs, your heart rate is going to increase, you're going to feel on edge, you're going to feel stimulated and alert. And a lot of the things that you're feeling when you are going through a panic attack or anxiety, basically what's happening is your danger response is turned on. And some common arousal symptoms are exactly what we're feeling in a given anxious moment. Rapid heartbeat, heavy breathing, flushed skin, sweaty palms. All of these are just indications that your body thinks there's danger. And the reason that we feel this way is multitudes.
So it's not a coincidence that the symptoms you have during a panic attack are exactly that when your fight or flight are being activated. It's because this intense physiological release that your body has of adrenaline, of oxygen, of glucose to the muscles, getting you ready to bulk up and fight or to get ready to run away. You have a mechanism in your brain that activates the fight or flight. And this mechanism activates when it perceives an imminent physical harm. So that means a close car crash, a bear right in front of you, some kind of predator or some kind of potentially physically harming situation, or a perceived psychological harm. And this is really where a lot of us tend to have an overactive fight or flight response. If your fight or flight response is continually activated, you will develop an overstimulated nervous system, one of the three main causes of panic attacks. So let's discuss a little bit, why is your fight or flight being activated?
Well, there's a number of reasons why in this modern age we are having this sense of fear and danger get stimulated more often than not. One of the reasons is we have these devices, smartphones and television, and they are constantly giving us access to different really serious issues that are happening around the world. And the issues that you're being exposed to, they are on some level threatening. And they may not be threatening to you in a given day-to-day moment, but you're still a human being who can empathize with other human beings. We're still social creatures. And when we see that other people around the world are suffering in some way, there's a part of us that goes, this is serious. This is, we should be thinking and feeling about this. So that's something that triggers us. The moment we wake up throughout the day, as we're going to bed, every time we look at our phones and check social media or the news, we're bombarded with these messages of danger. So that's one aspect that continually triggers us.
If you want to boil down what's happening, it's that there's a perceived threat. Now, most commonly during the high anxiety or the panic attacks we're talking about, your body... Well, we're talking about the perceived psychological threat or the perceived physical threat, but they work hand in hand. So if your body has faced some kind of pain, and that can come emotionally or physically, so it can be a very traumatic emotional experience, a feeling of shame, humiliation, of feeling disempowered, being overtaken physically, which happens common in assault and sexual assaults and other kinds of abuse. Your reticular activation system or your focus system of your brain is programmed to point out anything that may lead you to feeling that or being in that position again, a threatening thing. And when that starts to become overactive, the world kind of starts to close in on you. So your system gets a little more jumpy. That fight or flight is activated much easier.
So to give an example, let's say in middle school you were bullied a lot and you had a lot of trouble with people kind of picking on you. And then 20 years later, let's say you're a grown adult, you're in a meeting at work and somebody starts to kind of tease you a bit. And they're just having like fun, nothing really serious. But your body picks up on the pattern and thinks, this is similar to what happened when I was in middle school. I do not want to feel like that again. So it kicks into overdrive and starts pumping you with lots of intense emotions, lots of intense chemicals that let you know there's danger here. So that's just one example of how this can play itself out in many, many different ways.
Sure. And you see it in people when they seemingly overreact to situations all the time. If somebody, you like Ennis was saying, if you tell a joke to somebody and they all of a sudden overreact, maybe they scream back at you, or they just get really sensitive and go down and cry. What you're doing is you're kind of touching a raw spot for them, and what that raw spot is some kind of pain they felt before. And so when they get that big reaction, they start to feel flushed. Their heart rate starts to go up. It's anxiety. It's that fight or flight. It's like there's a threat here. I could go somewhere that is painful psychologically or could be painful physically. And so the body has that reaction. It releases that adrenaline, gets your muscles ready to go.
We're going to dive into why the fight or flight is being activated a lot in the third section where we dive into irrational beliefs. But for now, just understand that when your fight or flight gets activated, what's happening is your body is going into some response of danger. So there's, on some level, the perception of threat. And in our modern lives, there really isn't actual threat that we're experiencing. Most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, there's a perceived threat that's not actually there. It's just referencing some memory from the past, some association that we've gathered throughout our lives. So now let's get into how to get through a panic attack. We're going to share 3 simple steps that you can follow, and if you can do this, if you can have the wherewithal to remember to do this during a panic attack, it will serve you very well. So number 1 is to breathe, and in particular, a specific kind of breathing where you breathe in and hold for 4 seconds, breathe out and hold for 4 seconds, and then loop. And it's actually helpful to begin this loop by doing a full exhalation because, again, when we are experiencing a fight or flight response, our bodies are sucking in a lot of oxygen. We're kind of like taking a good breath in so that we're prepared to respond to the danger. And this can make us feel tense. It can make us feel on edge. So by just doing a slow and full exhalation, we're kind of signaling to the body that actually we don't need this much oxygen right now. We don't need to be preparing for some danger, and that everything is safe. That is the actual beauty of this specific type of breathing. We're not just breathing in this pattern for no reason. The reason is that it communicates to your body that everything's okay. This is our way of signaling to our nervous system that actually there's no threat. So remember, start off by breathing in the 4-4-4 pattern where you are exhaling fully, holding, inhaling fully, holding, and find a comfortable rhythm. It doesn't have to be exactly 4 seconds. It doesn't have to be, this rigid thing that's then making you more anxious if you're not following it perfectly. It's just a general pattern where you're breathing in a even way.
Yeah, and furthermore than just doing the 4x4x4x4 breathing, what you're doing is you're starting to focus on something that's very simple and very settling, along with, like Ennis said, sending that message to your fight or flight system that, hey, there's not actually a danger right now, so we can gently calm, and all the while balancing your oxygen with your carbon dioxide levels. The second step is going to be to start to reframe your response to the sensations you're having. The symptoms you have during a panic attack are identical to any situation where you feel extremely excited. So when you're at a concert and you're jumping up and down and you're just jazzed because you're feeling the energy of the crowd and you're screaming at the top of your lungs and your heart rate's going and your glucose is releasing to your muscles because you're so excited. That sort of physiological response is the same as when you're having a panic attack. And so telling yourself, oh my God, I'm dying, versus, oh, my body's excited and it perceives a threat, and starting to reframe what's happening and just reminding yourself I'm excited. Those are two very, very, very different framings of the situation.
And framings may seem simple. It may seem like one of those things that it even shouldn't work, but it just does. And that's why we're sharing it with you. If you have the belief that this won't work, what that's going to do is it's going to create a nocebo. It's like the opposite of a placebo. It's going to really make it so where you're not getting the full benefit from the start, and you're not going to actually try it. And even if you do try it, you're going to be having a voice in your head that's expecting to fail. So I just want to make that clear that this, surprisingly, actually does work. And if you can just trust that and give it a good, honest effort, you'll be shocked that just by saying, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited, and by saying that phrase when you feel a panic attack coming on, that can do wonders for your whole body. It can reinterpret what's happening, and by doing that, suddenly the fear doesn't feel like fear anymore. It feels like excitement.
What's interesting is as you start to reframe how you look at the sensations that you're having, each time, the level of panic, we'll talk about the feedback loop in a second, but those kind of thoughts you're having about, oh my God, I'm going to die or anything like that, they start to subside gradually over time. And so each time you have a panic attack, it's less intense than the last. And it gradually starts to come to a point that even when you feel that kind of seed sensation that might trigger the panic attack, you realize much easier that, oh, this is this mechanism, this is just this perceived thing, I know I'm okay. And you're able to kind of coach yourself down much easier from that.
And finally, once you've been doing the breathing and you've reframed, you can channel. You're going to have a lot of energy in your body still. Even though the breathing and the reframing will do wonders for the panic attack to settle you down and to put you in a state of excitement rather than fear, there's still going to be a lot of nervous energy in the body, and you're going to be very susceptible to falling back to a state of fear. So we want to take that opportunity while you are feeling excited and breathing properly to channel that energy into some activity that is relatively calming. It could be calling a friend. It could be doing the dishes. It could be watching your favorite movie. Whatever activity that is around you and appropriate for that moment, try to put your attention there. What we're doing is really getting out of our head. Getting out of wondering if we're okay or not. Getting out of reevaluating how we're feeling constantly. This preoccupation with our moment by moment experience is not helpful at this phase. It's better to just dive into an activity around you so that your attention is taken by that. So just to repeat, as you're going through a panic attack, as you feel that panic start to come up, immediately start breathing in the box breathing method. Reframe the sensations that you're feeling. Not, I'm afraid, but I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. And then channel that energy into an activity around you. So by following these 3 steps, it can actually take you really, really far. This is some of the groundwork that Jim and I did. Believe it or not, this stuff works. And if you can practice it and repeatedly practice it, it may not happen for you perfectly the first time, but if you can really try this again and again as you're having a panic attack, one of those tries will stick. One of those experiences will really reveal themselves, and you'll see how helpful this can be.
So let's talk about the 3 main causes of panic attacks. Number one is the feedback loop, then the overstimulated nervous system, and irrational beliefs. Let's start with the feedback loop. The feedback loop is when your anxious thoughts and emotions reinforce and start to amplify each other. So typically it starts with a sensation. A lot of times it's going to start with an elevated heart rate, or maybe you get up too fast and feel dizzy. So this sensation can trigger a thought, and typically that thought is very panicky. Oh my God, I'm about to have a panic attack. Then it might trigger an emotion, fear, anxiety, stress. And what's going to happen is these work in this wretched loop here to trigger one another. So then you might feel another sensation, a physical sensation from the emotion you're feeling, which causes another thought. Now, the three main thoughts we feel during a panic attack that escalate that panic attack are a fear of dying, a thought of losing control, or a thought of going crazy, that everything is going to fall apart.
Those three thoughts that Jim just mentioned, going crazy, dying, losing control, those are really some of the most essential ones. And we're going to cover those in just a sec. I just wanted to point out that this loop, even though we start with sensations, can start anywhere. You may be walking down the street, totally unaware of how you're feeling, and then just some random thought bubbles up into your mind and creates an emotion, which then creates a sensation, which then creates a thought. You may be feeling very clear-minded one day, and then suddenly you have a sense of fear in your stomach, which creates a sensation, which creates a thought. You may not notice where these are happening. In reality, they're very interconnected and tied together. But the point is that they amplify each other. And this is actually the root cause of panic attacks. This is what's really happening when you're having a panic attack, is they are reinforcing each other, looping until the sensations and emotions and thoughts get so extreme that you feel like you're panicking.
And it's important to know this loop is happening sometimes in like a nanosecond. It's not like you have to have a conscious thought and you're going to be processing through it all the time. It's just this feeling, oh my God, I'm scared, feeling it happens so quickly. And your panic attacks may vary from, I used to have very short panic attacks to, I have clients whose panic attacks last an hour or two. Anywhere in there is not necessarily unique as far as being something to really be concerned about. They vary from person to person, but this stuff happens so fast. The last one I remember having was, I'm running on a treadmill and my heart just kind of skipped a beat. I was running fast, and I could feel that just sudden rush of panic, like, I'm in trouble. And I could just feel that feedback loop start to go up. Now, luckily, I've developed this course in this program that I have the tools to kind of disarm that situation. But normally that's something that could have taken me out for a while.
So, as Jim mentioned, the panic attacks are caused by these feedback loops, and primarily the feedback loop that most often causes us to feel this way is the one on this left side here, where there's the thought, I'm going crazy, or the thought, I'm dying, or the thought, I'm out of control. So these three are very, very serious fears, right? Any of these would be a terrible thing. And understandably, there's a lot of resistance if we think this is about to happen. So when we start to have this belief or this thought that any of these are about to happen or are happening, our bodies are flooded with a lot of fear, a lot of resistance, and so that creates some strong sensations. When we feel and notice those strong sensations, that reinforces and validates those beliefs. Then we think, I am going crazy. Oh, now I'm really dying. Oh, now I'm really going out of control. Now what you'll notice is you never do die. You never do go crazy, and you are actually in control. And so this whole loop is just illusion. There isn't any real danger here. You're actually safe and okay the whole time. But there is a feedback of fear creating fear. Now, there are some other feedback loops, like social ones and ones around given situations, like maybe you're embarrassed at work, maybe you're preoccupied with what somebody is thinking about you, and those can feed into a panic attack for sure. But we've noticed that those three on the left are typically the main cause, and the point of that, the useful thing of that is, if you can get familiar with them, it can be quite freeing. And so this is what we mean by that. When you can become familiar with those common repetitive thoughts and feelings, that will let you know when you're actually in a feedback loop. And there's a big difference between thinking you're dying and knowing you're in a feedback loop. Okay? Number one will make you feel like you're just out of control, confused, you're not sure what's going on, you just know that you feel bad and things are scary and you want it to be over. On the other hand, when you know you're experiencing a feedback loop, then you have some ability to respond. Then you have some context for what's happening to you. So the way to know this is by writing down the common thoughts that you're having during a panic attack, as well as the common feelings that you have in the body. So by writing down your thoughts and feelings during a panic attack, and you don't have to write them down literally during it, you can reflect afterwards. If you do this, you'll notice a pattern. You'll notice that you're pretty much having the same repetitive thoughts and feelings. You might actually literally write down, "I'm dying," "I'm going crazy." You may have your own version of those. But the point is, when you can become familiar with them, those will be your signal. So the next time that you're having a panic attack, the moment you notice that one thought, you can realize, oh, there's that thought again. Oh, there's that feeling again. And so what that lets you know is, I'm definitely having a panic attack, which means I should apply the 3 simple steps. Okay, cool. Let's do the breathing. Let's do the reframe. Let's channel this energy. And let's always remember that this is just a feedback loop. This is not some life-threatening thing. This is not some issue that I need to resolve. It's just a feedback loop. And I can break it by implementing the breathing, the reframing, and the channeling, which is another way of reminding myself that I am actually safe.
It's almost like looking at yourself like a science project in a way. It's like noticing that there's a system in you that is not so integrated with how you want to move forward, and that it's a little out of control. And that's really what this is. Now, for some people, and when I work with clients too, that is a really new way for them to think, is to disassociate, not dissociate, but disassociate with this system in their body that's overactive. But what happens is, when you understand intellectually the pattern of how your panic attacks work, when you understand that this system within you is a mechanism that's just a little overstimulated, a little over jumpy and activating, that's the start to being able to get in touch with that part, to calm it down and coach it and have it more under control, ultimately disarming and subsiding your panic attacks. So let's talk about the second main cause of panic attacks, which is the overstimulated nervous system. This is when your nervous system becomes more sensitive to triggers and more susceptible to anxiety. And when we talk about an overstimulated nervous system or destimulating your nervous system, we're going to talk about the big 5. This is diet or inputs. So this is anything you're putting into your body or into your mind, sleep, meditation, exercise, and relationships. Now, these 5 are not nice to haves. These are essential to finding your body's balance, your nervous system's balance. And so we're going to go one by one to talk about each aspect of these. But just know that these are absolutely essential for you to balance.
And when we say they're essential, we really do mean that. And so that might be, when you hear that, look at the response that you're having to this. When you hear that they're essential, are you judging yourself for not living perfectly with those 5? Are you scared that you're never going to achieve perfect balance with those 5? Are you think about the response that you're having. If you're having anything but excitement and hope, I'm here to tell you that it's an irrational response. When you hear that these are essential, this should be a moment of excitement, because it means that if you are messing up on any of these, that may be the reason that you're having anxiety and panic attacks, which means if you can get a handle on these, it will likely cure your anxiety and panic attacks. It will likely help you overcome this permanently. That might seem like a big statement, especially if you're someone who has tried therapy and different medications. You might be thinking, could it really be that simple? Could it really be a matter of eating better, exercising, sleeping right, having good relationships, and meditating, or having deep relaxation? Could it really be that simple? And look, I'm here to tell you it is.
The answer is yes. A lot of times it is that simple.
So we're just going to dive into it. And as you're listening, remember, feel hopeful and excited and not judgmental if you're not doing this perfectly. So diet, or otherwise called inputs, food, drugs, media, environment, all of these have tremendous impact on your day-to-day experience, especially your nervous system. So certain foods that are spicy, so spicy food like any kind of habanero pepper or cayenne or anything that's going to like really stimulate your nervous system, you should avoid that. Anything that is stimulating to the nervous system in general, like caffeine and stimulants and opiates and alcohol, these should be avoided. So anything that stimulates your nervous system, try to avoid. Media. In this regard, we mean watching really violent TV shows, really stimulating YouTube videos, any reading news that's scary. If you're struggling with panic attacks, just take a break from this stuff. Look, I'm not saying that you have to be totally disengaged from the world around you, but you can take a month to not follow the news cycle so closely. You can take a month to not check on what your friends are doing on social media. And by doing this, you're really resetting your nervous system in a beautiful way by giving it that space to heal, to cool down, and to calm down. This is going to give you a sense of, not a sense, but an actual resiliency to panic and anxiety by taking this break from the constant stimulation of media.
You have to use your common sense as far as like if you're watching news that is saying, the majority of the message is the world is threatening and this terrible thing is happening, this terrible thing is happening, this terrible thing is happening. Or you're looking at social media and this person's doing better than me and this person's doing better than me and I'm not where I want to be. You're going to start to stimulate that nervous system just on sheer stress. And so keeping that stress level down is completely important. And go ahead.
In an environment, we mean a number of things. One is to spend time in nature, to be around beautiful environments that calm you down, that inspire you, that make you feel good, and to look at your day-to-day environment, like your room and your bathroom. Are they clean? Are they messy? Do you feel a sense of joy or a sense of stress when you come home? This is going to be a big, big impact on your day-to-day, especially your nervous system. So take a look at all of these inputs: the food that you eat, the drugs that you take, the media that you watch, the environment that you spend time in. All of this has a tremendous impact. And this alone could actually cure a lot of people.
Right. And if you need the information, because a lot of times our idea of how we're eating or our idea of how we're using alcohol or certain foods or what our house is like, take a second and just do like a food journal. Write down what you eat for a couple days or think about what your breakfast, lunch, and dinner were, just so you have it in front of you on paper for reprocessing. Because a lot of times our idea of what we're doing is very different than the reality of it. And the only other thing I want to say is, as far as drugs, I've had several clients that were having panic attacks, and as soon as they stopped their heavy drug use or stopped abusing caffeine or other stimulants, their panic attacks subsided completely. So be aware.
Sleep is another foundational thing for your whole body. If you're not getting enough quality sleep, it's going to impact pretty much every area of your life, especially your nervous system. Me and Jim are not sleep experts, but just some general guidelines are to have a consistent time, try to go to bed and wake up around the same time, have a quality sleep by having your room very dark, very dim. You don't want to have a lot of, gadgets and blinking lights while you're trying to sleep. Try to have it quiet and generally peaceful, to where if you are, if you have a roommate that's playing music, ask them to turn it down. If you have some, a dog that's barking, try to figure out a solution for that. If you are not getting enough quality sleep, you might be waking up with 9 hours, 8 hours of sleep, but still tired. That's a good sign of you're not getting quality sleep, even if you're sleeping enough time. And then have a nighttime routine to wind down. Spend some time before bed meditating. Spend some time journaling or doing something that's calming you down. Don't look at your phone. Don't think about all the things you have to do tomorrow. Maybe you write a to-do list if that helps you, but generally speaking, have a nighttime routine that helps you wind down, not get you amped up and stimulated before bed.
Yeah, having a nighttime routine is a signal to your body and a signal to your mind that we're letting go of things. We're just going to go and rest. And so it could even be just taking a shower, changing your clothes, brushing your teeth, getting in bed and reading. But we recommend turning off all media at least a couple hours before you go to bed, and just giving your body that sign that it's time to go to sleep. So exercise has been a pillar for me in getting over anxiety. We recommend 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise. It's actually been proven to work as effectively as a number of anti-anxiety medications. And we operate within the do-what-you-can mentality. So if you can walk, walk. If you can jog, great. If your legs don't work, you can use a hand bike. Find something that you can do. Something is way better than nothing, even if you're just taking a walk around the block for 30 minutes. This is extraordinarily useful in releasing stress and releasing endorphins and other amazing chemicals within your body that can help balance your system.
Meditation was personally my big tool that I used to overcome anxiety, as well as depression and a number of other challenges in life. So if you're not meditating or doing some kind of activity that's causing you to have deep relaxation, this is going to be another pillar of your healing journey. Meditation, you've probably heard a lot of different things about it, probably have a lot of associations with how to do it right or what it really means. And I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on this, but to give you a basic understanding, it's very, very simple. You're just sitting there, allowing everything to be, and really, essentially, doing nothing. So these are simple phrases that you can remind yourself during a sitting session. You can just remind yourself, look, I'm just sitting here, allowing everything to be. I'm not doing anything. What that means is, if you notice a certain emotion, it's okay. If you're feeling anger, sadness, fear, or happiness, whatever you're feeling, that has really nothing to do with meditation. That's just what you're feeling. It's not an indicator that you're doing something right or wrong. If you're having certain thoughts, that's also not an indicator that you're doing something right or wrong. Just notice whatever you're feeling, whatever is your experience, that is your experience, and allow it to be. And you can start small. Do 2 or 3 minutes or a guided meditation. Honestly, if you can just commit to doing 2 to 3 minutes a day for a week or two, and then slowly, every week, add a minute. Within a few months, you'll be doing a proper 15-minute session and getting fully immersed in the experience without a lot of strain or effort.
It's important to note that meditation is not this woo-woo wild experience. You're not doing it wrong. If you're sitting there, you're doing it right. For me, one of the most transformational moments that I've had through my journey, and one of the most amazing things I see with clients, is just just giving yourself permission to just be, even just for a minute. That there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere else that needs your attention. You're just going to sit and give yourself permission just to be. And I can almost see the energy of clients in the room shift. I can see them just release this big, it's almost as if they're taking off this backpack they've been carrying around, even just for a minute. And what that does is it kind of brings you back to this centralized state where you're not worried about 8 million things, and you feel this amazing experience of like, wait. I'm just a person. Like, I'm here. I like taking off that weight. It's an absolute amazing experience.
One of the primary causes of anxiety is a sense of orientation with the future, where you are really lost in tomorrow and what might happen next. And meditation is essentially training you on being here right now and not being preoccupied with an abstract idea of what might happen tomorrow. So by training this ability to just sit here and allow your current experience to happen, that is one of the primary ways to overcome anxiety.
Now, in an hour-long video, we're not going to cover everything there is to know about relationships, but relationships are one of the key elements that's causing you anxiety and contributing to your panic attacks. So we have a few questions here that can help you just generally start to sort out what's going on with your relationships. Number one, are the people you're spending time with serving you? Are you spending time with people who are adding to your anxiety or activating parts of you that feel like you have to act certain ways that maybe aren't aligned with your personal values? It's something to really, really think about. Number two, what relationship patterns are you repeating that are working against you? Have you done the same thing in your last 4 romantic relationships? A useful exercise I do is I'll write down all the major romantic relationships I've had or all the major friendships I have, and I'll write down how I feel in each of them or how I act in each of them and look for the patterns in them and then explore that later.
What people with anxiety often do is hold their tongue and not speak their minds and generally pretend to be someone that they're not in order to make the other people around them happy. And so look at your experience. Are you doing this when you're in a business meeting or when you're with your family? Are you acting in the way that you think they want you to act in order for everybody to be happy? Are you basically struggling with persona fatigue and holding your tongue and holding your thoughts and opinions on things so that you don't offend anybody? What I would encourage you to do is, and oftentimes with people with anxiety, they're really, really nice, polite people. And they're almost too preoccupied with being polite. So they fall into this trap of people pleasing. And I would encourage you to just be honest with people that you're with. If they say something that makes you upset, tell them as fast as possible. If they do something that you think is infringing on your rights or making you feel uncomfortable in some way, I would tell them as fast as possible. There's a certain group of people out there that this would be a bad advice to because they're already speaking their mind too much. They're what you might call, an asshole or someone who's just really a loudmouth. Most people with anxiety, in my experience, are the opposite of this. They're actually really, really nice, polite people that are afraid of being seen as an asshole or a loudmouth. And what I would encourage you to do is play around with that belief that being honest means that people won't like you, or that being honest means that you're going to be rocking the boat too much. If you can let go of some of that fear around expression, your relationships will improve and your anxiety will improve dramatically.
And number 3, ask yourself, what do you want out of your relationships? So these are 3 main questions you can ask to start to sort out and identify what's going on with you socially. But just remember before we move on, your anxiety is your fight or flight system, meaning that if you're anxious for a confrontation or what you think is a tough conversation, your mind is perceiving there's a threatening thing there. And the majority of these threats that we perceive are typically irrational. There is no imminent physical harm, and there is no psychological harm coming towards you.
So to really just overview what we've talked about here in the de-stimulating your nervous system section, start small. one step at a time. We've just given you 5 huge areas of your life, and we've told you how these areas can impact your anxiety tremendously. You probably are not doing perfect in all of these areas.
I'm not.
I'm not for sure.
Yeah, definitely not.
And so just take it step by step. Look at where are the low-hanging fruits. Where could you make some progress today in your diet, in your relationships? Could you do 2 minutes of meditation? Could you go to the gym later today? Could you just delete a few apps on your phone? What are the small steps that you can do to start making progress today?
All of these steps in the big 5 that you're going to take are going to require some kind of planning. So when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone or you're making some kind of change or shift, you have to think logistically and you have to think financially. That might be something as simple as going to the grocery store and having food for the week to do food prep, to taking your TV out of your bedroom, to saving a little more money so that you can bring your romantic partner on a outing that you feel like will help your relationship. It really needs your full attention. Just like we said in the second slide of this video, this requires your full attention and it deserves it. Also, be aware of your coping mechanisms. What you don't want to do is if you're using alcohol as a way to, cope with a really stressful situation, you don't want to just pull all the alcohol out of your life without a plan intact. If you do that, you're going to have a very, very large ripple effect. And so you can talk to a coach or talk to a friend or go online and do some research on a way to kind of gradually wean yourself off of things like alcohol, drugs, sugar, things that your body's going to have a reaction to. Ultimately, though, you really just have to take a stand and set some internal boundaries with, we have to do this, let's move forward.
And find some support. You might be listening to this and feeling inspired, and you might be thinking like, this is it, this is the moment, I'm going to get my life together. But look, there's a big difference between a moment of inspiration and the daily grind of showing up and doing everything that is required. So get some support. Get a friend to give you their guidance. Get a friend to ask you how it's going.
Right.
If you can get people involved with this that are going to support you, that's going to take you really, really far. And ultimately, where it comes down to a lot of people is whether or not they take action is if they've surrounded themselves with an environment of people that are helping them. So another huge cause of anxiety and panic attacks is irrational beliefs. This is maybe one of the more complicated ideas we're going to share, but it's also one of the more impactful in all of the areas of your life. So an irrational belief is a distorted assumption and worldview that leads to our anxious thoughts and feelings. Okay, so what this means is when we're young, we're born with an empty mind. We don't really have any beliefs or assumptions about how the world works or how we should be, how other people should be, what's good, what's bad. None of that is really in our minds. And then our parents and our surroundings, our teachers, friends, even the TV shows we watch, they instill certain beliefs, certain worldviews, certain assumptions in us. And we even form beliefs and assumptions during events that might happen. So you might watch your parents argue about money a lot. So you form the very, very simple assumption of like, money equals stress or money equals arguments. You might see your parents get a divorce when you're young and you think, relationships equal letdown. Relationships equal people will leave you. Whether or not these are valid or real assumptions, or it's not very obvious yet. It's just something that you picked up as a kid. And as you grow up, these irrational beliefs and assumptions, they stack up. And the more that you have, the more that you are constantly misinterpreting your environment around you. Now, if you remember, we talked about fight or flight at the very beginning of this video. And we talked about how it often gets triggered when there's a perceived threat. One of the main reasons that you're having a perceived threat is you believe a lot of irrational beliefs that are causing you to feel like you're in danger. You have a general sense of me against the world that if I am not going out of my way to get what I want, then people are just going to use and abuse me, etc. This might just be where you're coming from. This is a orientation. This is the worldview. And right now it may seem like that's just the way things are. But that's the thing about worldviews. They're so encompassing. It's just how you've been looking at things your whole life. So what we're going to introduce in this section is how to identify your irrational beliefs and how to overcome them. So number one, we've got beliefs, thoughts, emotions. They lead into each other. Beliefs are the cause of thoughts, and thoughts are the cause of emotions. If you've never heard that before, pause and consider that. That's actually pretty important. The fact that all of your emotions, everything you feel, everything you sense in your body, it's coming from a thought, not the other way around. And that thought, the reason you're having that particular interpretation, that particular judgment about a certain moment, it's coming from a deeper belief, a deeper assumption about how things are. And that belief, if it's false, will generate negative thoughts. If that belief is not true, you're going to end up having a lot of negative thoughts, which leads to a lot of negative emotions.
In most cases, sufferers of panic attack or people with high anxiety are perceiving intense, irrational threats, whether they are aware of it or not. What does this mean? This means a lot of the beliefs you have, a lot of the beliefs that shape how you see the world, how you act, how you feel, are subconscious. So that means they've been there for so long, or you've been acting on them for so long that you might not even be aware of them. So what we're going to talk about is how to find these deeper beliefs inside of you. When you're feeling some kind of emotion, you're having these recurring thoughts or something, we're going to teach you how to track those back to find the deeper belief. And it looks like this. It's a simple phrase. If that were true, what does it mean about me? I do this all the time. I did it while we were making this slide and started crying about why I don't go to the gym, or what I believe about myself when I don't go to the gym. And
do you want to tell that full story?
Well, it's not.
I think it'd be helpful.
Okay. So we were trying to come up with the perfect phrase for how to track a belief to find a deeper belief. And when we were brainstorming, I thought about this one. If that were true, what does it mean about me? And so we have an example here that you can check out. But for me, it sounded something like, I was thinking about why I get so anxious about not going to the gym. So I said, okay, well, I didn't go to the gym. And so I said, okay, if that were true, what does it mean about me? Well, if I didn't go to the gym, it might mean that I'm kind of lazy, or that I'm inconsistent. And so if that were true, what would that mean about me? Well, if I'm lazy and I'm inconsistent, and what that means is that I'm not reliable, or I'm not going to be very valuable to a company or a partnership. And if that were true, what does it mean about me? Well, if I'm not reliable to a partnership, it means that I'll be alone. And if that were true, what does it mean about me? Well, if I'm alone, that means I'm going to be lonely. And so if that were true, what does it mean about me? Well, if I'm lonely, that means I'm going to be sad. And if that were true, what does it mean about me? Well, if I'm sad, it means I'm going to live a really unfulfilling life. And I can feel this start to bubble up in my stomach right now. And that's a good indicator that I'm starting to hit a raw spot. Because if my not going to the gym is tied to me being lonely and not living a fulfilling life, I've got a little bit of reworking about skipping a day at the gym there, or feeling a little tired and not doing it. So you can see how these seemingly surface level things that give you a physical response, these are really rooted in these deeper, more core beliefs. And I'm going to go take a powder because I'm getting kind of sad right now.
So to give you another example of this, let's say that there is a situation where you're laid off from your job due to a company downsizing. So that's the fact of the situation. But where the trouble is when we start making up stories about the situation. So even though or in the other slide, we mentioned how emotions create thoughts. In this pyramid, we kind of talk about where your attention might go during this process. So when you're in that situation of getting laid off, what you may notice first is your feelings. You may notice you're afraid, you're anxious, you've got some pressure, you're lonely, you're deflated. And then because of those emotions, you can use that as a basically an opportunity to go, okay, what am I feeling here? Why do I feel this way? And you can start to notice your thoughts, the automatic thoughts that you're feeling. And so that's where you might notice that you're thinking, I won't live a good life because I can't hold down a job. I'm going to have such a hard time getting a new job. There's some thoughts. There's some literal interpretations of the moment that are causing the emotions. And deeper thoughts might be underneath that, where you're thinking, I was the one let go because I was expendable. And all the way down to a core belief of, oh gosh, I am expendable. I want to make the point that you wouldn't have the assumption, if you didn't believe that you were expendable, you wouldn't have a lot of those feelings. If you got laid off and you had the core belief of, I am competent and valuable, you wouldn't have the other emotions. You would have more often than not a sense of excitement because, well, looks like I lost my job and there's plenty of jobs that I can get next, and it may be, a tough, month or two of looking for jobs, but you know what? I know that it's going to be fine, and you just have a different orientation to it.
Yeah, this really portrays that the way you frame a situation is not necessarily always a choice. If you have these core beliefs that are triggering these emotions, if you're in this kind of lack mindset or in this I'm expendable mindset and getting a job is hard to find, those are beliefs, and those are going to filter how you see the world. Well, like Anna said, if you don't have those beliefs, if you believe I'm valuable, and you see them with people who seem to navigate through life really easily, who just have this belief in themselves, they're very confident. When you have those beliefs, the loss of a job is almost the opening of opportunities, and there's no stress. There is no anxiety. It's just, oh, okay, I guess there's a shift or an evolution in my life. I'm excited for what the future holds. And that's really what we're working towards, getting through our anxiety.
So once you've done that initial practice of asking the question, if that were true, what would that mean about me? And looking at the emotions and the thoughts that were creating them, and looking at the thoughts and the beliefs that created them. Once you have some clarity around the beliefs that are operating you, it's time to shift them, right? Because we're not going to just stop there. We're not going to, just let our bodies have that response. We want to help transition out of the self-image and the assumptions that are causing the anxiety, and really foster a worldview that is more in alignment with the truth, and more serving of us in general. So, for example, let's say we have the belief, I am unlovable. A very, very common belief, actually, especially in the Western world. If you have that belief, you may have some triggering thoughts that are associated with it. And so what you want to do is get very clear on the thoughts that you have around that. If you are looking at the belief, I am unlovable, these triggering thoughts are basically reasons why that might be true. And they're just reinforcing that belief. It's anywhere your attention goes to reinforce that is going to be, you want to write that down so that you can be aware of it. And then in the evidence against, you want to basically find reasons why that's not true on a logical level first, but then furthermore on a more emotional level. Imagine it this way. Imagine that you are arguing with a friend of yours. It's usually not enough to just be like, here's the rational reason why you're wrong. And then they suddenly go, oh, you're right. How could I ever thought that? Ba-da-da-ba-ba-da. Now what we're doing is, at that level, we are, arguing with ourselves. And that might be a good place to start, just to get clear on the logical level why this is not true. But further down the path, you want to actually go from having an argument to having a conversation with yourself. So imagine the you that feels that it's unlovable. Maybe it's a 5-year-old you, maybe it's a 7-year-old you, Maybe it's you from yesterday. But imagine in your mind's eye that you're talking to yourself and you're telling yourself, hey, I noticed that you feel like you're unlovable. Why do you feel that way? What happened that made you think that? And you might be surprised with what you find. You might have memories of moments in childhood where you felt unlovable. You might have different associations that come up. But the point is, you're now going from an argument to a real listening, to a real conversation with that part of you that thinks it's unlovable. And then, instead of arguing with it, you can just directly show it love and say, well, I love you. Even though you think you're unlovable, I love you. Even though you think you're expendable, I think you're really valuable and I'd hate to lose you. Even though you think you're not worthy, I think you're worthy tremendously, and that's why I love you. And so you're basically showing and giving it, that part of you, the affection that it most certainly wants. And that is the best way to shift beliefs. The combination of both logic and real compassion is, I found, to be the most effective.
Yeah, what I use with clients typically is a combination of meditation plus this. So you having the information that kind of goes against what the belief is, but also being in touch with that deeper part of you, like Ennis was saying. And when people talk about love yourself, that's a really tricky thing, because you can say that to somebody 8,000 times, but if they have these overwhelming emotions and they're not in touch with any part of themselves that can do that self-coaching or calm that scared them inside, then you're just, it almost feels worse in a way. Like, oh, yeah, I want to love myself. I don't know how to do it. I just don't know how to do it. So what Ennis said is fantastic. So just to summarize, in this whole video, we're glad you're still here. We talked about the three main causes of panic attacks and high anxiety: the feedback loop, overstimulated nervous system, and irrational beliefs.
You are most certainly not stuck and definitely not alone. This is an experience that many, many people are going through, and most importantly, are not going through anymore. Jim and I have been there. We've seen many people who have been there, and you really can overcome this. So as long as you have an understanding of what's causing this, and you can take those daily actions to help break the feedback loop, calm down your nervous system, and identify the irrational beliefs that you're holding, you really, really can make some progress in this. And every person is going to have their own unique journey. What we've shared are some universal principles, some basic guidelines that you can use along your healing journey. But keep exploring. Whatever works for you, use that. Whatever doesn't, don't worry about it. Just keep going and keep trying, and you really can overcome this.
So we want to talk about next steps. Ennis and I want to help you personalize your practical application of what you've learned here. This video is our gift to you. The point of this video is to share, like he said, these universal principles, get you to understand what's going on inside of you, to hopefully give you some relief so you can start to feel hopeful, you can start to feel inspired. But we also want to get you on a call. We want to personalize what's going on with you, give you some practical advice, give you some steps to take for you. So if you fill out the questionnaire below, you can have a free, 100% confidential and totally non-judgmental call with Ennis or I. And like we said in the beginning, we have an 8-week anxiety and panic attack course. If you're interested, we can tell you about it on the call, but we really want that call to be about you. We're not going to spend time advertising whether or not you'd be a good candidate or not. We really want to be able to get into that call and just get you on your way to being panic and anxiety free.
Yeah, these free calls that we're offering, they're for people who are serious. I mean, if you're still listening to this, you're serious about this. You've got a real yearning desire to overcome anxiety and panic attacks. You're serious about getting a good handle on this area of life. And we want to help you. We want to give you personalized advice for your unique situation. And during the call, we're going to talk about a lot of things that that we did that you can do. We're going to hear your personal story and kind of adapt our message to what you're going through right now. And if it's relevant, we're going to suggest that you try out our 8-week course. Now, as Jim mentioned, this course is designed to help someone that is currently suffering from panic attacks, someone who's currently suffering from anxiety. It's how do I put it? It's basically everything that we've done in our own lives and in the lives of our clients in extreme detail with exercises and guided meditations. It's the full path for you to take step by step to overcome this. So if you're thinking about doing this, if you're thinking about taking the next step and going further, please just sign up below, fill out the survey, and we'll be glad to get on the phone call with you.
I just want to reiterate the ripple effect that anxiety has on your life. Anxiety can control you in an infinite number of ways that is shackling you to have limiting beliefs and limiting you from moving through your life with freedom and with as much joy as you can have and deserve. And ultimately, we appreciate you spending your time here, and we're so grateful to be able to put out content like this. It really is one of the most fulfilling things I do, working with people, and to work with Enes and put out this course and to be able to offer it is just an amazing experience. So thank you so much for your time, and please sign up for a call from us. We would love to hear from you, and it's absolutely free.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.